from Linwood Elementary. My name is Theo Thompson. I'm a counselor here at Linwood Elementary. I also go by Mr. Thompson with the kids, and I'm here with my partner.
My name is Bill Woldridge, and I'm a counselor at Linwood and Sojourner Elementary, and the kids know me as Mr. W.
So we are here today with our first podcast. We've been talking about doing this for a long time, and we're excited because it's a chance to not only talk about what's going on at Linwood, but to talk about maybe some things that affect families and kids and the community. And so we're going to start out, and we're just going to keep building and see where it ends up. But for today, we thought we would just start out with introducing ourselves, a little bit about our background, talk a little bit about the role of an elementary counselor. What do we do? Because it can vary a lot, and it can be kind of a mystery, because I think that some parents see us and they know a little bit about we're doing classroom guidance or we're doing this and that, but they don't know necessarily the whole picture of exactly what we're doing. So we thought we'd share about that as well, and then end with maybe just some current events around Linwood, what's going on around the school. So the path. I'm trying to think. As I think back to how I ended up here at Linwood. It goes back, 21 years, something like that. It goes back quite a while. And, for me, I think college wasn't a real positive thing for me at first. I think I was kind of lost and not really sure what I wanted to do with my life. And then a friend of mine said, "Hey, you're interested in going up and being a school counselor, up in Washington?" And I thought, well, that sounds kind of cool. It sounds like kind of what you do when you're like in high school, though. And I was like, well, I don't know about that. Sounds kind of crazy, living in the cabins with the kids, and it's just like this. Yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun. But I went up and tried it, and in a lot of ways, it really shaped the rest of my life, because, I think up to that point, I was really focused on, I want to do something that's going to make me a lot of money, and I want to, had this perception of, what life was about. And that just turned everything kind of upside down for me. And came back to school after that. Really powerful summer. Started getting great grades, majored in psychology, working with kids, worked at the crisis line, and all those things just gave me just so many new experiences that just opened my eyes to the ways that you can be of service in this world. And that was just a really big opportunity for me. After college got out, I found that California actually had environmental education, outdoor education, year-round. And so I could go down there, and I went down and I started to do it for a living, which is kind of different than here in Oregon. You can't really do that here. But down there, people, there's all kinds of outdoor programs. So I did that for 7-8 years. And then I realized, it's time for me to do something a little bit different. I love doing the outdoor ed. But I wanted to find a way to kind of bring that experience back to the community. How do I do this where the kids live? Not just bringing them out to the forest. So I went back, got my elementary teaching credential, came up to Oregon, started working at just a little private independent school, helped them to kind of build their science program. Just another step. It was awesome. Just such a good experience. Got a chance to take kids to Hawaii, take kids to, on hiking trips up in the Olympic Park. I just kept thinking, this is just amazing. I get paid to do these great experiences. Hard work, but I get paid to do these great things. Kind of at that point, I realized, though, and I kind of remembered that, really, I really wanted to do is to be a counselor. And I realized, well, I love working in schools, I love teaching, but I want to be in the school environment. So I thought, well, the thing I really want to do then, I want to be a school counselor. And so I went back to school at Lewis and Clark College for a couple of years. And actually, my second year, there happened to be an opening where this Mr. W had been working over at Billquist, and was actually able to be a counselor there while I was finishing up school. So I've been in the district, last 10 years, through some good times and hard times financially, for the community. But it's been a fantastic journey. Very lucky to be here at Linwood, working here with my partner. Very fortunate. And I know, Mr. W, you have a great story.
Different
story. Yeah.
So my story is a lot different than Mr. Thompson's. So I grew up in Boise, Idaho, and sports was sort of my life. So as a little kid, I loved football and I loved playing basketball, but mostly football was my passion. And growing up education was sort of, it was sort of a different thing in my family. Nobody in my family had ever gone to college. And so my father really stressed college with me from like elementary school on out. He was always telling me, you got to go to college, you got to go to college. So that was always in my head. The problem was, my dad was a bartender, and he was sometimes in work and sometimes in the middle of finding a job, and we were a food stamp family, and so paying for college was gonna be something that was gonna be a hard thing to do. So I went through school, and in high school, I had decided that, you know, I was going to coach football in high school when I got through college, and I was going to be a teacher, and I kind of had this in my head. And then my world sort of opened up because I started getting letters from a lot of small colleges trying to recruit me to play football, and a lot of these colleges offered to pay for education, which was probably the most amazing thing that had ever happened to me, because it opened up my world that I could go places.
You got some offers at Ivy League schools too, didn't you?
Yeah, I got some offers from Columbia, and Yale gave me partial scholarships to play football down there. But it freaked me out because it was so far from home. I was a homeboy. I would never left Idaho. And somebody told me you're either going to be in New Haven, Connecticut or New York City, and it kind of freaked me out. So I ran away from those. But Linfield College in McMinnville here offered me a scholarship, and I thought, it's close enough that I can drive home, 6 hours, 7-hour drive, and it's far enough that I can kind of get out and see things. So I decided, you know what, I think I'll go to this college. Once I looked into the college, I sort of fell in love with it. So I had to figure out, number one, where the heck McMinnville was in Oregon. Number two, I had to figure out, you know, what this state of Oregon was all about, because I'd only been there one time for a trip to Bandon, and I'd hated it because it was cold and wet, and I thought, ugh. But I figured I can tough it out for 4 years in Oregon, get a good education, go back to Idaho, and that's where I was going to teach and coach football, and it was going to be a happy ending. Amen. Never once thought of counseling, never once thought of anything to do with counseling kids or social work or anything. Never crossed my mind. I was just going to teach. So fast forward to, I think, my junior year, my friend and I had a chance to live off campus in this house, and we were told that if we helped fix up the house, we would not have to pay rent for the 2 years we were in the house, which was, for a college student, like the most amazing thing ever. The problem was, I had to spend a summer in McMinnville instead of going home to Boise. So I needed to get a job. And my buddy worked for the Park and Recs department over in McMinnville, and so he got me a job. And he said I was going to be sort of like a PE teacher for kids. It was like an after, or a school, not even a school because it was a summer. It was like a summer program for kids. And they go to different school sites, and we do all these activities with the kids. So I thought, that's going to be fun. We get there, and what he didn't tell me was it was for migrant kids, because there's lots of migrant workers there. And so all these kids came, some knew English, some did not know English, but it blew my mind. I fell in love with these kids, and working with them and playing with them and teaching English and things like this throughout the whole day. It changed my whole trajectory. So I went from going to coach football and I'm going to be a high school teacher to all of a sudden I started thinking, man, counseling might be pretty cool. So when I graduated and I came back to Boise for a year, I got a job with a parole officer, and he said, well, if you want to go into social work or counseling, then you might want to get some experience, so then when you go to get your master's, you have that experience to fall back on, since your major was history, and that's not going to get you in very many social work schools. So I worked for him, and I worked with these high school kids, helping them get their GEDs, helping them find jobs, drug testing them, the whole works. I was all over the place. And I enjoyed that. And then I got a job offer from OHSU, and I came back up to Oregon and decided, okay, I can spend, 5 or 6 years in Oregon, and then I'll go back to Boise. Ended up at OHSU meeting my wife, and the rest is history. I decided to stay in Oregon. So after 7 years at OHSU, and I worked with 5 to 9 year old severely emotionally disturbed kids in a psychiatric day treatment center, and I loved it. Loved every second of that. While I was at OHSU, I was able to get my master's from Portland State in social work, and then North Clackamas started hiring counselors. And so when I came in, I think I was the third counselor in the district for elementary. And so I came in and I got a job working at Billquist Elementary and Linwood Elementary. And it was unique because neither school had ever had a counselor, and the principals had no idea what to do with me. So for the first couple of years, really I was all over the place and sometimes doing absolutely nothing, just sort of sitting around not knowing what to do. But as the years went and more counselors were hired, we sort of figured it out, and little by little, I started to kind of get my program going the way I kind of visualized it and the way I liked it. I always wanted to do guidance in classrooms, and that started, and I always wanted to see individual kids and do groups and help out families. And once those things started happening, my sort of world blew up, and I've been doing it for 19 years now. So after 7 years at Billquist, Mr. T took my spot at Billquist, and they hired me full-time here at Linwood and to also work with Sojourner. And then, as life is, full circle, Mr. T gets hired back here at Linwood, and now we share a place and we're partners doing this stuff. So that's sort of my weird ride to become a counselor.
Awesome. Yeah, different paths, but it's interesting all the different things that happen that kind of send you on a trajectory to get where we're at. I think I don't even remember having an elementary counselor in my school.
Oh, I never had an elementary counselor.
I never. Yeah, I don't. That's a pretty new idea, like you were saying. Like that, you were kind of the first. And so I think about one of the things that I think Bill and I get asked a lot is what do you? I get asked that at the grocery store. You're a counselor in elementary school. What do you do? I mean, and it's kind of hard to say because every day is pretty different, right? I mean, and Bill and I do have different roles here because there's two of us. We work in different schools also, but there's two of us here. So what do you think? What would you see as like your main job, like in the school? Do you have
I think we sort of split our roles pretty well. So my main role at Linwood and Sojourner is I'm the person who is teaching guidance in all the classrooms. Mm-hmm. So I go in and each week I'm in a classroom and I'm teaching guidance lessons. Sometimes standalone lessons, sometimes on school safety that lasts 3 or 4 weeks. But I'm in every classroom every week. So that's sort of my big one. I see kids individually for different things, and I think that's sort of my role here.
Yeah.
Also is when a kid needs individual, a lot of times I'm the one who's seen them. And then I do social skills groups as well. And so I do a lot of groups here. On Mondays is our group time for the most part. There's a couple on some other days, but Monday's our big day. So I think guidance, individual groups, and then family support. And then I think you and I pretty much overlap on the family support and on some of the groups.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we both do groups. I think I tend to do more. My schedule can probably change more because depending on the day, I'll support students who are needing some skills in certain areas in the classroom. If someone's struggling for whatever reason, we're all trying to figure it out. And it's a new experience, and especially some of our younger kids. There's a lot of skills that we're trying to develop, and so I'll work with some of those kids to try and help them. I also work with families around, like if the families need support around attendance. And I think I do probably maybe a little more like family outreach just in situations because you are in classrooms a lot. You're always on the move, coming and going from classes, and so I tend to be sort of if a teacher needs something or if something's going on or for whatever reason, I tend to be sort of a person who can help out in those situations. Both doing groups. I think also maybe like if something comes up, there's programs in the district that are pretty cool, like the Shop with a Cop at the holidays and things like that. I'll try and help families and kids get partnered up with that. For those of you who don't know, Shop with a Cop is just basically a program. It's really cool. It was basically, I think, started by Ellen Baltus.
Yeah.
And they basically, it's a program where kids who have had some experiences, some negative experiences with law enforcement in the past, get an opportunity to come and go shopping with policemen at the holidays and go to Walmart and spend some money. And
Right.
so anyway, so I just wanted to give, so basically, yeah, it's doing things like that, helping families get what they need basically in different situations. Definitely helping families get the resources they need in different situations. So I guess, one of the reasons we want to do this podcast is so that families and, I think teachers have a pretty good idea, but to know that we are here for those things. If you do need resources around whatever, getting to school, if healthcare is a barrier, if for whatever reason, we're really, that's what we're here for. We are here to advocate for kids, to support teachers, to support administrators. And that's what I love about it. It's kind of a catch-all job in some ways. We just try to do, every day can be so different. Is there anything else you think what are we missing? I feel like there's so many things to it. It's hard to even describe.
Right, and and I think as these podcasts go on, and hopefully they'll keep going on, I think what you'll find if you listen to them is like we'll be talking about something else, and all of a sudden you'll be like, oh, they do that too, because Theo's right. There's just so much, and we're running around and we're doing things, and the reason I love the job is because no day is the same. Every day we're doing different things, and we overlap on some things. So Theo may be doing family outreach with one family. I may be taking another family and doing outreach with another family. So our day is just spent running all over the place. But the cool thing is having Theo here too makes it possible for us to do a lot more as a counseling group here. Whereas when I was alone here, I could do maybe half to 3/4 of what we're doing, but I had to drop some things because you're one person. So Theo and I work pretty good about handoffs, and if I'm working with a kid, but I'm not available, Theo might take that kid if the kid comes in and needs a break, and so we hand off a lot of stuff. And as we keep going, I'm sure other things will come up with the things we do.
Yeah, that's part of I guess that's just part of the thing. That's part of why we're doing this,
right?
To do that.
And I think that's what we kind of want the podcast to be about as we go. I mean, the way we visualize it is we want to have a subject every week that we can talk to you guys about. And if you're a parent listening to this, then we can give you some information and give you some stuff that hopefully will help you out. Yeah. If you're a kid listening to this, why are you listening to this podcast? You should be listening to something a lot more exciting. So if you're a kid listening to this, stop it.
Give other options out there. Come on.
But as parents, you can get a lot out. Hopefully we can give you a lot out of it. And hopefully we'll cover some things that you're like, oh yeah, I kind of wanted to know about that, and they gave me an answer, or they gave me an idea of how to go about it. So that's how we want to do it every week. Is just have something for you guys to either look at and say, yeah, I want to know a little bit about that, or to have something where you're like, oh, I never thought of it that way, so I can try it that way, or it gives me an idea of how to help my kid, or get into the school, or communicate positively with the school, things like that.
Because I think one of the cool things about being a counselor is that we have sort of the benefit of, I think if a family finds a success in a particular situation, they share it with us. And so we have this knowledge, and sometimes it's like, okay, how do we get this back out there? This great, idea or whatever in different situations, and that sort of accumulates over 20 years. Mm-hmm. And so that's part of the fun of this, I think.
Yeah. So
what's going on at Linwood?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. So we're going to end every podcast, we're going to end with what's going on at Linwood. And basically, what that means is we're going to tell you what's going on at Linwood.
That sounds good.
And so I'm going to let Theo tell you today what's going on at Linwood.
Well, one of the things we put out the word to teachers, and as time goes on, we're going to keep doing that, and just trying to find out, because that's another thing, is that there are some amazing things. I'm walking through these hallways. It's like an art gallery in here, isn't it? You walk down the hallway and it's just amazing. And so we just wanted to have another venue, for the 3 people that listen to this, we wanted you to be aware of all the cool things that are going on here. Number one, there is a couple things. Obviously, there's the holiday coming up. President's Day? Is that the right holiday?
President's Day.
Okay. Yep. Sometimes I get those confused. Friendship parties are coming up. Valentine's Day is the 14th. At Linwood, we celebrate with friendship parties, which I think is a really nice way to just appreciate, and Mr. W is just giving me a hard time, but it's a good way to just celebrate, positive friendships, positive relationships with classmates, and
Mm-hmm.
tell people how much you appreciate them. It's also a day for me to remember to get my wife a card. And
it's the reminder.
Yeah, that's another important thing coming up. And I'm hoping if I share it on this podcast that I'll remind myself to do that. And the other thing I wanted to say, Mrs. Shanks was so kind as to share some of the stuff. And every time I walk down, I stand by that classroom in the morning every morning, and I kind of just get to look at her wall.
Right. Mrs. Shanks is one of our first grade
Oh, yeah,
teachers.
Thank you. Yeah.
And so she has this amazing art wall that she does with her kids. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, her and Miss Nelson both. I think they share that down there, right?
Yeah.
She would say, one of the things they've been doing down there is I see a lot of science going on this year. I don't know what it is. I just see science everywhere. That's kind of a cool thing going on in schools these days, is I feel like teachers are doing more science.
Mm-hmm.
So they were saying they're starting to do that more. I also, just as a side note, I saw yesterday I was in kindergarten and they were doing the cars. Like they made cars out of like buttons or something like that, and had the popsicle sticks, and they were talking about, I think it was like motion or something like that in different ways. I didn't see exactly what they were doing, but they were pushing the cars around on the floor, and it's so awesome to see that first grade is starting to do more science. And I know they were also recently a lot of the classrooms have been studying Martin Luther King Jr. Such an important part of our history and a part of our culture, and so great to see teachers really, and I feel like when I was a kid, people talked about it, but they didn't really explore it. Like, who was this person? What were the real contributions of the time? And I feel like they learn like what I learned in high school now. It's just amazing what they do, the time they spend on learning about this great individual and his contributions.
Right.
The people that also, the other people that were also things that were going on during that time.
Right.
Same thing. One last thing. Also, I remember the Battle of the Books. I don't know a lot about Battle of the Books. I have to be honest. I see them in there. I see them having fun. Do you know? I think that you know more about Battle of the Books than I do. It's coming up the 23rd.
Yeah, not a ton more. I just know that it's a reading program, and kids are reading as many books as they can. And then I believe it's sort of set up in sort of a question and answer, and then teams. If a team wins, it goes on to the next round. Then you'll have a final winning team. If you want to know more about Battle of the Books and you're a 5th grade or a 4th grade parent, you can contact Mr. Hossman, Miss Pascal, Miss Miller. Who'd I miss? Oh, and Miss Egren.
Yep.
And they can tell you more about them. Those are our 4th and 5th grade teachers.
I do know when I see the book list, I think most of those kids have read more books than I've read my entire life.
Right.
I think it's pretty impressive.
Right.
I think that's the cool thing about it. It really is a fun way to encourage reading and challenge them to not only, but you have to recall, you have to be able to, remember a lot of things from these books, be able to talk about them. So
it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's exciting stuff coming on.
So before we head out, is that it? Right? Did we cover everything?
I think that's it for today, yeah.
So before we head out, just a reminder that if you want to learn more about Linwood and what's going on, there are several ways of doing that. You can follow us on Facebook. You can go to our main page, our Linwood Elementary page, and that's where you can find Mr. Thompson and Mr. W's web pages, and that's where you can find this podcast. So you can just go to our webpage. It'll be on both of our pages. And you can follow us on Twitter. We have a Twitter account, and sometimes there's a lot of pictures and things going on, and sometimes there's not a lot of things going on for a while. But Twitter is also a nice way to follow us. So Facebook, Twitter, or go to our page, and you can look at our webpage. But I think that's it for now.
That's it.
Hopefully once a week, once every couple of weeks, we will refresh this and do something different. So next week, we hope you join us, and I'm sure right now we have maybe 1-2 people. I might force my wife to listen to this. But hopefully in the coming weeks, we'll get more and more people involved.
And, also I think we could say if you have ideas, questions, ideas for topics, we're looking for them.
Yeah.
So I guess the best way to get those ideas to us, email us. We have super long email addresses, so what I will say is email addresses on our website, but my email is Thompson, THOMPSONTH, @nclac.k12.or.us.
And my email is Wooldridge, WOOLDRIDGEW, @nclac.or. No, nclac.k12.or.us. because it's a long email and I don't use it anymore. I just have it on my computer.
And don't put Woldridge B because that gets me every time.
Yeah, Woldridge B. It's Woldridge W.
All right. Thanks,
All right, everybody. Thanks for listening.